Hey everybody, welcome to Country Girl with Kathy Jarvis. And today we're going to talk about 10 different things that you can do now this fall to help improve your gardening for next year. And the first one is to just do what I'm doing right now. Go out in your garden, look at it, kind of look at your notes and think back, what could you have done this year that would have improved your garden? Are there vegetables in there that did really well that you want to do again? Do you have some vegetables that you really don't want to try again? They just didn't do any good, or you tried them and you didn't like the way they grew, you didn't like the way they tasted? Yeah, decide what you want to plant and what you don't want to plant next year. And then look and decide, do I have them in a good location? Would they have done better if I moved them somewhere else? And also look at your garden and decide if there's any changes you want to make, because now is the time to make the changes. The second thing you can do to help improve your garden is to clean everything up. Get rid of the weeds, remove all the dead plants, your tomatoes, your peppers, your cucumbers, all those that were kind of late growing that hung on until the cold weather hit. Get those out of the garden. If they don't have any diseases or pests on them, you can compost them. Otherwise, just bag them up and get them off the property. So another thing to do is clean up your flower gardens also. Now, a lot of people like to leave the flowers and stuff that have gone to seed for the birds. I find that if I'm going to feed my birds out of the bird feeder, they really don't need the extra feed, and I can clear that garden off and make it look nice and amend the soil and get it ready for the next year. So that's what I do. And that brings us to the third thing, which is to replenish the soil. As you're gardening, as you're pulling up the weeds, as you're pulling up the roots, crops, and changing out the plants, you lose soil. And also the rain and the watering condenses the soil and bleaches out the nutrients, as well as the plants using the nutrients. So you need to replenish the soil, add compost, fertilizer, manure, whatever you need to add to make your soil fertile again. And you might consider doing a soil test to make sure you put the right things into the soil that you need. Fourth thing you do is mow and chop the leaves. Now, these leaves can be used in the garden, and you can use them either as a mulch if you shred them up. Don't use whole leaves as mulch. Shred them up. You can put them in the compost bin, or you can put them into a bin by themselves and turn them into leaf mode. All this is natural fertilizer, basically. So instead of bagging them up and putting them out for the trash, bag them up if you have to, put them in a corner and turn them into leaf mode, or put them in your compost bin, or shred them up and just put them over the garden after you've gotten your garden prepared for winter. Put them over the garden as a covering for winter. That all works. The fifth thing you can do, The fifth thing you can do is start a new compost bin. Now, if you've been composting all year, that compost is now ready to go out into the garden. So you have an empty bin, or if you don't have an empty bin, it's probably time to turn that bin over to the next one, and then you have an empty bin. Because usually you have a you have 3 different chambers for your compost. You have one that you're adding everything to, you have one that's working, and usually you have one that's almost finished. Unless you have a tumbler, then you just add it and you wait 2 weeks and then you dump it into the finished and then go from there. So you can start a new compost bin right now. Sixth thing to do is divide your perennials. You can divide those, dig up the tender bulbs, and get those ready to be planted again next year. Dividing the perennials, you can divide them and just plant them back in the ground. Tender bulbs you need to pull up and put into storage for the winter. Seventh thing you can do is plant spring bulbs right now. Plant those so they'll be coming up in the spring for your enjoyment. Eighth thing, now it's time to plant trees and shrubs. It's a perfect time. So get those into the ground. 9, keep watering. Things can either get wet or they can get dry. If you've got crops that are still going, like you've sown winter crops and stuff, keep those watering, but remember to always unhook the hose from the spigot and drain the hose each time you're done watering. You don't want your hose or your spigot to freeze up. And the 10th and last thing to do is to keep weeding. Even though your beds might be empty, if you have not put a good cover over them or a cover crop, even if you have a cover crop, you're still going to have to weed it. So keep your weeds down. You don't want them to take a hold during the winter. And those are my 10 tips or ideals for how to prepare your garden for a better spring. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Dream big, follow that dream, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless. Bye, everybody.